Chapter 23, Sidearm. As Klein strolled down Zutland, enjoying the humid breeze, he suddenly realized he only had 3 pence left. A public carriage ride back to Iron Cross Street would cost 4 pence. Paying with a 1 gold pound note felt as absurd as using a $100 bill for a cheap bottle of water back on Earth. Should he walk part of the way? Klein considered this while slowing his pace and reaching into his pocket. No, that wouldn't do. Walking the remaining distance while carrying 12 pounds, a significant sum, was unsafe. Besides, he hadn't brought his revolver, fearing confiscation by the Nighthawks. He'd be defenseless if he encountered danger like what killed Welch. Getting change from a bank? Unthinkable. The 0.5% processing fee was too extravagant. Klein shook his head at the mere thought of it. Having dismissed several options, Klein's eyes lit up at the sight of a clothing shop, Wilker Clothing and Hats. Buying something appropriately priced for change seemed like the most logical step. A formal suit, shirt, vest, trousers, leather boots, and a cane were all within his budget and were necessities anyway. However, the thought of clothes fitting was troublesome. Benson knew more about it and was better at bargaining. He decided to wait for his brother's return. What about a cane? Yes. A cane was a gentleman's best defense, almost as good as a crowbar. A gun in one hand and a cane in the other, the combat style of a civilized person. Klein made up his mind and entered Wilker Clothing and Hats. The store's layout was familiar. Formal wear lined the left wall, shirts, trousers, vests, and bow ties were in the middle, and leather shoes and boots were displayed in glass cabinets on the right. A salesperson in a white shirt and red vest approached him politely. In the Lone Kingdom, distinguished gentlemen wore monotonous black suits with white shirts, while their servants dressed in brighter colors. Ladies wore glamorous dresses, and their maids wore black and white. Klein considered his needs. A cane, he said, something heavier and harder. The kind that could crack skulls. The salesperson discreetly sized Klein up and led him to a corner with a row of canes. This golden-laid cane is made of iron-hard wood. Very heavy and hard, costing 11 solely 7 pence. Would you like to try it? 11 solely 7 pence. Outrageous. Klein was taken aback by the price, but he nodded calmly. The salesperson carefully handed him the cane. Klein found it heavy and difficult to maneuver smoothly. It's too heavy, he said, relieved. The salesperson presented 3 other canes, walnut wood by Mr. Hayes, 10 solely 3 pence, ebony wood inlaid with silver, 7 solely 6 pence, and white bolie core also inlaid with silver, 7 solely 10 pence. Klein tested each one for weight and hardness, finally choosing the cheapest, the ebony wood cane. I'll take this one, he said, pointing. No problem, sir. Please follow me to the counter. We offer free maintenance for scuffs or stains. The salesperson led the way. Klein used the opportunity to retrieve his gold pound notes and separate 2 smaller denominations. Good day, sir. That will be 7 solely 6 pence, the cashier greeted. Klein, wanting to maintain his gentlemanly image, extended the 1 gold pound note but couldn't resist asking, can I get a discount? Sir, these are all handcrafted, so our costs are high, the salesperson replied. Our boss isn't here, so we can't lower the price. Sorry about that, sir, added the cashier. All right. Klein paid and received the black silver inlaid cane. While waiting for his change, he stepped back and swung his new sidearm. Whoosh. 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 The heavy sound of the cane cutting through the air pleased Klein. He looked forward to receive his change but was surprised to see the salesperson retreating and the cashier leaning towards a double-barreled shotgun on the wall. The Lone Kingdom had semi-regulated firearm policies. Owning one required a weapon usage certificate or a hunter's license, neither of which allowed restricted military firearms. Certificates were hard to obtain, even for wealthy merchants. Hunter's licenses were easier for rural folk but limited to hunting guns. Wealthy individuals often obtained them for self-defense. Klein stared at the wary salespeople, a twitch at the corner of his mouth. He chuckled dryly. Not bad. This cane is perfect for swinging. I'm very pleased. Realizing he posed no threat, the cashier relaxed and handed over the change with both hands, 2 5 solely notes, 2 1 solely notes, a 5-pence coin, and a 1-penny coin. Klein nodded inwardly. After a brief pause, he ignored the salespeople's gazes and held the notes up to the light to check for watermarks. Satisfied, he pocketed the money, tipped his hat with the cane in hand, and left Wilker Clothing and Hats. He splurged 6 pence on a short tram ride and a transfer, arriving home safely. Inside, he counted his 11 pounds and 12 solely 3 times before putting them in the desk drawer. Then, he retrieved his bronze revolver with the wooden grip. Clink. Clang. 5 brass bullets fell onto the table as Klein loaded the silver demon hunting bullets, engraved with intricate patterns and the dark sacred emblem, into the revolver cylinder. He loaded only 5, leaving one chamber empty to prevent misfires. The remaining ordinary bullets were placed in a small iron case. Pa. The cylinder clicked into place, giving him a sense of security. He excitedly tucked the revolver into the armpit holster and buckled it. He practiced drawing and holstering until sunset, when he heard tenants in the corridor. Phew. Klein exhaled and returned the revolver to its holster. He took off his formal suit and vest, putting on his usual brownish-yellow coat and stretching his arms. Tap. 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 Footsteps approached, followed by the turning of a key. Melissa entered, her soft black hair framing her face. Her nose twitched as she glanced at the unlit stove, her eyes dimming slightly. Klein, I'll heat up the leftovers from last night. Benson will likely be home tomorrow, Melissa said, turning to her brother. Klein leaned against the desk, hands in his pockets. He smiled. No, let's eat out. Eat out? Melissa asked, surprised. How does Silver Crown Restaurant on Daffodil Street sound? I heard they serve delicious food, Klein suggested. But. Melissa was still confused. Klein grinned. To celebrate my new job. You found a job? Melissa's voice rose. But, isn't the Tianjin University interview tomorrow? Another job. Klein smiled faintly and retrieved the stacked notes from the drawer. They even gave me an advance of 4 weeks' pay. Melissa's eyes widened at the sight of the gold pounds and solely. Goddess. What job did you get? This. Klein hesitated, choosing his words carefully. A security company whose mission is to seek, collect, and protect ancient relics. They needed a professional consultant. It's a 5-year contract, earning me 3 pounds a week. Were you worried about this last night? Melissa asked after a moment. Klein nodded. Yes, while being an academic at Tianjin University is respectable, I prefer this job. Well, it isn't bad either, Melissa said encouragingly. She then asked, half suspiciously, why would they give you an advance payment of 4 full weeks? Because we need to move. We need a place with more rooms and our own bathroom, Klein said, grinning and shrugging, hoping his smile conveyed his intended surprise. Melissa was momentarily stunned before exclaiming in a fluster, Klein, we are living quite well now. My occasional complaints about not having a personal bathroom are just a habit. Do you remember Jenny? She lived next door, but after her father was injured and lost his job, they had to move to Lower Street. The family of 5 lives in one room, with 3 sleeping in a bunk bed and 2 on the floor. They even want to rent out the remaining space. Compared to them, we are very lucky. Don't waste your salary on this. Besides, I love Mrs. Smyron's bakery. Sis, why is your reaction completely different from how it played out in my head? Klein stared blankly at his sister. Chapter 24, Penny Pincher. The setting sun painted the sky gold as Klein met Melissa's gaze. He found himself momentarily speechless, his carefully prepared arguments evaporated. He cleared his throat twice, his mind racing. Melissa, this isn't a waste. In the future, my colleagues and Bensons might visit. Would we host them in this cramped space? And when Benson and I eventually marry, will our wives sleep in bunk beds? Neither of you even have fiancés yet, right? We can wait and save more money in the meantime, Melissa replied logically. No, Melissa. This is a matter of social standing. Klein was stumped, resorting to vague principles. Since I'm earning £3 a week, I should appear to be earning £3 a week. Truthfully, having shared apartments before, Zhou Mingrui, as Klein, was accustomed to their current living situation. However, his past experience also made him acutely aware of the inconvenience it posed for a young woman like Melissa. Moreover, his ambition to become a beyonder and study mysticism necessitated a more private and secure environment for future rituals. The constant presence of other tenants increased the risk of unwanted incidents. Seeing Melissa about to counter, Klein quickly added, don't worry, I'm not suggesting a bungalow, perhaps a terraced house. The main thing is having our own bathroom. Besides, I enjoy Mrs. Smyron's bread, Tinjin biscuits, and lemon cakes too. We can prioritize places near Iron Cross Street and Daffodil Street. Melissa pouted slightly, falling silent before nodding slowly. Besides, there's no rush to move. We need to wait for Benson to return, Klein chuckled. We can't have him walk in to find everything gone, right? Imagine his shock. Where are my things? Where are my siblings? Where's my home? Is this even my home? Did I make a mistake? Goddess, wake me up if this is a dream. Why is my home gone after a few days away? His imitation of Benson's bewildered tone made Melissa smile, her eyes crinkling to reveal shallow dimples. No, Mr. Frankie would definitely be waiting by the door to snatch Benson's apartment keys. Benson wouldn't even make it upstairs. She scoffed at their miserly landlord. In the Moretti household, Mr. Frankie was a frequent target of their jokes, a habit Benson had initiated. Right, he'd never change the locks on us, Klein agreed with a smile. He gestured towards the door. Miss Melissa, shall we proceed to Silver Crown Restaurant for a celebration? Melissa sighed gently. Klein, do you know Selina? My classmate and good friend. Selina. An image of a girl with wine-red hair and deep brown eyes surfaced in Klein's mind. Her evernight goddess-worshipping parents had named her after Saint Selina as a blessing. Not yet 16, she was half a year younger than Melissa, a cheerful and outgoing girl. Yes, Klein affirmed. Her elder brother, Chris, is a lawyer, earning close to £3 a week. His fiancée works part-time as a typist, Melissa described. They've been engaged for over 4 years, saving diligently for a stable life after marriage. They haven't set a wedding date yet and plan to wait at least another year. Selina says many people are like her brother, typically marrying after 28. You need to prepare and save, not squander your money. Just a meal at a restaurant. Was a lecture necessary? Klein was torn between laughter and exasperation. After a moment, he said, Melissa, I'm already earning £3 a week, with annual increments. There's no need to worry. But we need to save for unexpected emergencies. What if that security company suddenly closes? I have a classmate whose father's company went bankrupt. He had to take temporary work at the pier, and their living conditions instantly became terrible. She had to drop out of school, Melissa advised seriously. Klein covered his face with his hand. That security company in the government. Yes, it has some connections with the government. It won't easily close down. But even the government isn't stable. After every election, if the ruling party changes, many people lose their positions. It becomes chaotic, Melissa retorted stubbornly. Sis, you sure know a lot. Klein found a wry amusement in his exasperation and shook his head. All right then. Then I'll make soup with yesterday's leftovers. Buy some pan-fried fish, a piece of black pepper beef, a small bottle of butter, and a cup of malt beer for me. We should still celebrate somehow. These were common items sold by hawkers on Iron Cross Street. A piece of pan-fried fish cost 6 to 8 pence, a small piece of black pepper beef 5 pence, a cup of malt beer a penny, and a quarter pound of butter 4 pence, though a full pound was only one solely 3 pence. The original Klein handled grocery shopping during holidays, so he knew the prices well. Klein mentally calculated that Melissa would need about one solely 6 pence, and he took out 2 one solely notes. All right. Melissa didn't object. She put down her satchel and took the notes. As he watched his sister retrieve a small bottle for the butter and pots for the other food before heading briskly towards the door, Klein paused and called out, Melissa, use the remaining money to buy some fruits. Many hawkers on Iron Cross Street sold discounted, slightly overripe fruits. The residents didn't mind the lower quality because of the cheap prices, enjoying the flavor after trimming away the spoiled parts. With that, Klein took a few quick steps and pressed his remaining copper pennies into his sister's palm. Ah. Melissa looked at her brother, puzzled. Klein stepped back and smiled. Remember to visit Mrs. Smyron's. Treat yourself to a small lemon cake. Melissa's mouth widened, and she blinked. Finally, she said a single word, okay. She quickly turned, opened the door, and hurried down the stairwell. A river carved through the landscape, its banks lined with cedar and maple trees, the air was refreshingly pure. Klein, on his way to formally withdraw from the university interview, carried his revolver and cane, having paid 6 pence for the public carriage. He walked along a paved path towards a 3-story stone building shrouded in greenery, Tinjin University's administrative block. Truly worthy of being one of the Lone Kingdom's 2 major universities. Klein sighed in admiration, it being his first visit. Compared to Tinjin University, Koei University across the river seemed quite shabby. Heave-ho. Heave-ho. The rhythmic sound of oars echoed as two rowing boats moved upstream on the Koei River. Rowing was a popular sport among Lone Kingdom's universities. Klein, Welch, and others had joined Koei University's rowing club to secure scholarships and had become quite proficient. This is youth. Klein stopped, gazing into the distance with a wistful sigh. Such scenes would disappear in another week as the summer break began. Continuing along a tree-lined path, Klein reached a three-story stone building. After registering, he easily found the office of the person he'd spoken with before. Knock. 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 He tapped lightly on the half-closed door. Come in, a man's voice responded from inside. A middle-aged instructor in a white shirt and black tuxedo frowned upon seeing Klein. The interview is still an hour away. Mr. Stone, do you remember me? I'm Klein Moretti, a student of Senior Associate Professor Cohen. You've read my recommendation letter. Klein smiled, removing his hat. Harvin Stone stroked his black beard, puzzled. Is something wrong? I'm not in charge of interviews. Here's the situation. I've already found a job, so I won't be participating in the interview today, Klein explained his visit. I see. Upon understanding, Harvin Stone stood and extended his right hand. Congratulations. You're a very polite young man. I'll inform the professor and senior associate professors. Klein shook Harvin's hand, intending to make small talk before leaving, when a familiar voice called out behind him. Moretti, you found another job. Klein turned to see a silver-haired elder whose silhouette was instantly recognizable. His deep blue eyes were set deep in his face, which bore few wrinkles. He looked sharp in his black tuxedo. Good afternoon, mentor. Mr. Azik, Klein greeted hurriedly. Why are you both here? The elder was none other than Senior Associate Professor Quentin Cohen of Koei University's History Department, his mentor. Beside Cohen stood a middle-aged man with bronze skin and an average build. Clean-shaven, he held a newspaper. His hair was black, his pupils brown, and his soft features held an indescribable weariness, as if he'd witnessed much of life's harshness. A black mole was visible beneath his right ear upon closer inspection. Koei University recognized him as Mr. Azik, a history department lecturer who had often helped the original Klein. He enjoyed debating with his mentor, Professor Cohen. Their opinions often clashed, yet they were best friends, otherwise, they wouldn't have sought each other's company. Cohen nodded, his tone relaxed. Azik and I are here for an academic conference. What kind of job did you get? It's a security company that seeks, collects, and protects ancient relics. They needed a professional consultant and are paying me £3 a week, Klein repeated his explanation to Melissa. He then added, as you know, I prefer exploring history to summarizing it. Cohen nodded slightly. Everyone has their own choices. I'm glad you took the trouble to inform Tianjin University instead of simply not showing up. At that moment, Azik interjected, Klein, do you know what happened to Welch and Naya? I read in the newspapers that they were killed by burglars. The incident was being treated as armed burglary. And it was already in the newspapers. Klein was taken aback, carefully considering his response. I'm not very clear on the specifics either. Welch had obtained a diary of the Solomon Empire's Antigonus family from the 4th epoch. He sought my help in interpreting it. I assisted them for the first few days, but then I became busy with job hunting. The police even came to me 2 days ago. He deliberately mentioned the Solomon Empire and the Antigonus family, hoping to glean information from the two history teachers. The 4th epoch. Cohen murmured with a frown. Azik's weary bronze eyes went blank for a moment before he inhaled. He rubbed his temple with his newspaper-holding left hand and said, Antigonus, rings a bell. But why can't I remember?